People want to share and stay connected with their friends and the people around them.
From humble beginnings.
When we first launched, we were hoping for, maybe 400, 500 people.
To this.
2.9 billion. That's how many people use Facebook every month.
Facebook has come a long way since 2004 after acquiring sites like Instagram, WhatsApp, and a bunch of other multi-million-dollar companies. It's now a social media powerhouse. You could say Facebook is worth a Zuck ton.
So I just want to say thanks.
And today, Facey's had a facelift. Well, kind of.
I am proud to announce that starting today, our company is now Meta. From now on, we're going to be Metaverse first, not Facebook first.
Zuckerberg's deep diving into the metaverse. And so far, well, it's weird.
Oh, hey, Mark.
Hey, what's going on?
Hi, Mark.
What's up, Mark?
A metaverse is a virtual 3D world where people exist as kind of avatars, either through virtual reality or augmented reality. It's going to be us immersed in different worlds that Facebook hopes to be part of building.
Now, you might be wondering, is this rebranding just a PR stunt to escape all the bad press Facey has been copying?
Facebook's failure to tamp down on the spread of radicalizing content.
Puts profits before user safety. Misinformation around the coronavirus.
Yes, I believe that that's correct.
The truth is that I think that it's going to take a little bit more than a rebrand and announcement to get rid of some bad press.
Our brand is so tightly linked to one product that it can't possibly represent everything that we're doing today, let alone in the future. Over time, I hope that we are seen as a metaverse company.
When it comes to the apps you use, things won't change. So does Meta even matter?
Stephen Sheilers, the former Facebook CEO for Australia and New Zealand, and he joins us now from the non-metaverse. Stephen, there's so much about social media that has become a toxic waste dump these days. So how is a virtual reality version of that going to do anything good for society?
Yeah, that's a great question. The word you use there, toxic, I think is very true of social media today. There's a lot of good things about it. I think the internet and social media have changed the world for the good, but there's no question there's some bad in there too. And when you look at the metaverse, you have to ask the question, well, if we haven't tackled the problems of the current, internet universe, are we in the position now to tackle the problems of the metaverse that Facebook's proposing?
Yeah, well, to date, Facebook has done a terrible job of managing the most sinister aspects of its platforms. You've seen Mark Zuckerberg up close and the way that he operates. How concerned should we be that he wants to dominate the metaverse?
The question is, should a company like Facebook or Google or others be left in control of this, just one company? If you look at Facebook, I would argue that Mark has too much power. He can't be dismissed from his job. Even his own board can't dismiss him. And, that doesn't mean Mark's a bad guy. I actually think Mark universally is a pretty good person, but I don't think we want anybody with that kind of power in the world, be it Mark Zuckerberg or anybody else.
Stephen, you were running Facebook Australia and New Zealand between 2013 and 2017. When did you become aware of just how harmful these platforms were becoming?
During my time there was, I would say, there was not a lot of understanding throughout the part of the business that I was in about how harmful social media could be. But it was starting to creep through. We were starting to see things like disruptions in countries like Myanmar that clearly were being made worse probably by Facebook's tools. We were starting to get the first inklings that, mental health could be affected by social media. But probably for me, the big event was the election of 2016, when I woke up and opened up my phone and I saw Donald Trump had been elected president of the United States. And now I knew how powerful Facebook was. I was inside Facebook, and my job was to help advertisers and including political parties reach the people they wanted to reach on our platform. And I knew how powerful that was, and I knew how much Facebook had been working with Donald Trump and his team. And so at that moment, I was struck by, Facebook, for better or worse, really did help Donald Trump get elected. I think the facts have borne that out. It just shows the power of the platforms that Facebook has created. And I think since then, we've seen even more demonstrations of that power for good and for bad. And so that was probably the time it first came across my recognition that, Facebook was maybe too powerful for Facebook to control.
Did that influence worry you? And did it worry you enough to try to make changes?
It worried me, but I'll be honest, it wasn't something that I was up in arms about, that I wasn't, agitating internally. And the truth is, Facebook's such a big business that, even Australia, this business over here, it's relatively small in the scheme of things for Facebook. So I probably couldn't have made much difference inside. Ironically, I think it's since I've left Facebook, increasingly I've linked up with more former Facebookers, people who worked in Silicon Valley and big tech, people who invested in these companies over time and in many cases made a lot of money. But a lot of us have become much more concerned about the creature that we created. And I think in many ways we're more influential now from outside Facebook than when we ever would have been inside of Facebook.
So do you regret not pushing back when you could have?
My tenure at Facebook ended soon thereafter. I left the company. I'd been there long enough. And it really was after I left that I started to understand in much more detail. And I think the world started to understand in much more detail just how kind of toxifying social media could be. So, no, I don't have any regrets about that. What I definitely don't regret is since leaving, I've become much more informed, much more active, and having more conversations like this. I don't think any of us have the answers about what we should do about social media just yet. I think the problem is we're not informed enough and we haven't discussed it enough. So I love forums like this to talk about the problems of social media and the internet and how we should go about solving them.
Stephen, given the direction Zuckerberg is taking Instagram and Facebook and the toxifying effect you describe social media having, would you let your 3 kids use Facebook?
Well, today I've got very young kids. They're all sort of under 5 years old, so they're a long way from using social media. And by the time they get to social media, I imagine it's going to be more of the metaverse that Mark talked about today. But, yeah, I think social media is an issue. The internet in general, I think, is an issue for parents, as if parents' lives aren't hard enough. Here's another thing they have to worry about. And, yeah, I have seen much of the research about the effects on young kids, on teenagers around social media and their effect on their mental health, their self-image, their ability to socialize and interact with others. And that is concerning. So, yeah, it does give me pause about thinking about how my kids would interact in the social media world or indeed the metaverse.
Well, it's a conversation so many parents are concerned about. And, Stephen, we really appreciate you joining us this evening.
Good to be with you guys. Thanks a lot.